Okay, so I just want to say I throw things. So heads up and keep your eyes up and open because I throw things. All right, let's do this trip around the world. Fair trade. I'm Wendi Medling, and I own a store called From the Ends of the Earth in North Oak Cliff, and it's all about fair trade. So I'm here to tell you to do what your mom and dad always told you and play fair. It's important. And if you do, you might get good stuff. All right, if we were 1,000 people and that's all that lived in this earth, only 200 of those people would get all the goods and services, 77%, leaving the rest of us to scramble around like rats after crumbs. And we don't want that, do we? So, hey, heads up. All right, global trade policies. Read this because the global trade policies reflect the interests of the fat cats. Did you know that 3 billion people live on less than $2.50 a day? And global trade policies such as NAFTA only increase the problem, and they increase the problem because this encourages businesses to go after cheap labor with no regard for human rights or the environment. And that's not a good thing, is it? Heads up, here's something coming. All right, so U.S. shoppers don't really know the cost. Don't even know the cost of their cheap goods. They don't know that 95% of the population live on less than $10 a day. And chocolate is my favorite example of this. We love chocolate, I know I do. But we spend $13 billion on chocolate in the United States every year, and 43% of those cocoa beans come from the Ivory Coast, where 15,000 kids live in child slave labor. But fair trade is a different kind of opportunity. There's no slave labor or sweatshops because they're paid a fair wage, so they can pay their laborers a fair wage. That's the main guiding principle of fair trade. The other one is heads up because things are coming your way. So we like to build long-term business relationships in fair trade, and we like to practice financial and technical assistance for the farmers and the workers in fair trade. And coffee beans, the price of coffee beans fluctuates rapidly all over the world, but if they're fair trade certified, it bottoms out at a certain price. That way they can continue to manage their business knowing what their resources will be. And it's an even playing field that way. A lot of products are uncertified. Things like beautiful girls and jewelry, that's uncertified. But people like me, fair trade organizations, work directly with those artisans, following the principles of fair trade organizations, to make sure that they get goodies like that. So if they're practicing fair trade, they're going to get 30% of the final price that I would sell it for here in the US. But if they're a free trade, they're only going to get like 3% of what I would sell it for here in the US. So let's fall in love with fair trade and people like Alfaro Nunez, who's a master gourd carver, and people like the Cooperativa de Cusco, who make these beautiful textiles, and there's something for you, yay. And you know, if we increased trade by just 1% in Africa, they would increase their economy by 5 times what we give them in aid and debt relief, and that would help our economy because we wouldn't have to be helping them. And it's also a better way because they don't have to leave their villages and go to crowded cities where they don't want to be, because then they would have to use fans to fan themselves because it's too hot and crowded. Ouch. Plus, it's just a good way for us to empower others and to use our purchasing power for sustainable growth, economic growth and change, and to show our solidarity and faith in them to create a world for themselves. And we don't want to support the bad guys, the people that are the worst environmental and human rights abusers. We don't want to support them because we are good people. We are American idols, all of us. And that's why I ask you to talk about fair trade everywhere you go, and to ask your stores and restaurants to carry fair trade. And if you can't do that, at the very, very minimum, go out and get a passport. Do you know only 28% of Americans have passports? That's pathetic. Get a passport so that when you're buying stuff, you'll at least know who made it. You'll have a visual image of that in your head. Somebody like maybe Ernesto Guayacure, try to say that, I dare you. Ernesto Guayacure, he is a fair trade artisan who appreciates the opportunity to earn a decent living because he works in fair trade and not in slave labor. I'm Wendi Medling. That's my store from the ends of the earth. If you have more questions or you just want to buy cool stuff instead of getting free cool stuff, come and see me.